Ladies and gentlemen, let me start welcoming you all to the third and final SAP Live Salon of today. In the previous salons, we have been talking about our visions of the future and the war that is going on to attract the most innovative talents. All very important things for an organization to ensure the survival in today's and tomorrow's competitive environments. Another important consideration is selecting the right tools for the job. Tools that can promise you today they can handle your big ideas of tomorrow. And so we are at the SAP Festival, so of course that means that in the next hour we are going to talk about the move to SAP S/4HANA. And once again, I will interview my guests at the table. After that, we will have a short wrap-up, and then we have the possibility to ask some questions. Let me first of all introduce you my talented band, Stereo Bumper. Joining me at the table are some of SAP's finest. The president, EMEA North at SAP, Brian Duffy, and also the COO SAP of Belgium and Luxembourg, Stef de Mulder. Please welcome them. Gentlemen, welcome, welcome here in our salon. Mr. Duffy, let me start with you. We have seen some moving boxes around, even on our stage, on the floor in this festival, everywhere. What is this exactly, S/4HANA move?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's great to be here, but don't call me Mr. Don't call me Mr. Duffy. So great to be here with everybody, and hopefully you've all seen a lot and heard a lot so far today around S4. And specifically around our MOVE program that we have. So our goal as an organization is to move our customers to S4, and we plan to do that, as you know, by 2025. As an organization, we now have a MOVE program which is basically geared towards educating our customer base, but in addition, educating the ecosystem around how we are going to move our customers to S4. And a huge focus area for us, and you heard Alan say it this morning, is to ensure that the ecosystem is going to have enough consultants who are going to be trained, certified, ready to go when it comes to S4. And then secondly, for us to partner with our customers and also to partner with the ecosystem to tell the story around how to move to S4, number one, but most importantly, why to make that move to S4. And I think, it's very clear that obviously as an organization, it can be challenging to position why to kick off a transformation like this. And I think we have done a really good job, both within SAP and by working with the ecosystem, on telling the business transformation story that now needs to happen within organizations to allow them to make this move to S4.
Okay, nice. S4, how does it fit into the theme of this festival, Move to the Intelligent Enterprise?
Yeah, I think when you think of companies around the world, and I'm sure you've also picked up a lot around Qualtrics. Qualtrics, we acquired them in January of this year. We closed on that transaction. And essentially 80% of CEOs, they believe that the products or the services that their company is delivering are actually great and their customers are happy. The reality is that 8% of customers actually think that the products or services that they're getting are great. That means between that 80 and 8%, there's a gap. And this is where you see competitors or disruptors rather, like an Airbnb or an Uber example, come in and really take over the market. Now, what we, as an organization, what we're empowering our customers to do is to move to S4. Move to S4 so that you can have this platform where you can be agile, where you can be nimble, and where you can be fast, so that you can actually deal with the moves that are going to happen in the market. And also have an enterprise whereby you're going to be able to get real-time insights, real-time visibility, and actually make decisions around your business whereby you can impact something tomorrow tomorrow and you can make that decision today. Because very often many enterprises spend their time actually looking in the rear view mirror to see that which did happen rather than planning for that which might happen and then making a decision in real time.
Okay. Let me start with a why. Brian, in your opinion, why should customers move to S/4HANA?
I think very simply S4 is going to give every customer a competitive advantage, number one. S4 is going to allow for real-time insights and visibility, and in addition, it's going to give you the platform on top of which you will be able to innovate, and if we can innovate, that's when customers can separate themselves from the competition.
And can you present us one of your business cases?
Well, I think there's many different business cases.
One is okay, just to give...
many different business cases that we've done in terms of the move. I can tell you, we've worked with, I won't name the customer, but a very large logistics company in our part of the world that was really struggling with lots of different features given the legacy systems that they had, and in addition they now were facing the competition from very smaller disruptors that were coming in to truly disrupt their business. What we partnered with them to do is now to give them, one, the real-time visibility into their stock, into the movements, et cetera, but in addition we partnered with them around actually understanding that which their customers wanted to receive and to ensure that the systems that they had in place were going to be delivering that service to their customers, because very often, like I said, businesses are making decisions to actually deliver products or services, but it's really not hitting the mark of what the customer wants to experience.
Okay, and what does the customer get when it installs S4, when they buy S4? More concretely, what is it and what do they get?
So I think, as everybody knows in the audience, there's been ERP has been around for a long time, and now you're going to get the fourth generation of ERP, so the digital platform on top of which they will be able to innovate.
Okay. Mr. De Mulder, how do you see the traction on the Benelux market?
Yeah, so also from my side, thank you for being here and welcome everybody. So I think that the traction is going quite well. We see basically a boost in the last 18 months. Like Alain mentioned, we have about 1,200 customers out there. We see today 46 customers which are live and 37 projects ongoing. The good thing is that it's actually nicely spread between small customers, medium customers, and big customers, also across industries. We also see some interesting trends in industries. We see that the public sector is actually showing the nice way forward, which is actually quite funny. And then also on the utilities perspective, we also see across the whole utilities industry a big move to the S4 system. So that's actually going quite well.
Okay, and what are the main triggers these customers have moved to S4?
I think you need to differentiate between two kind of triggers. I think you have more the strategic triggers. It's also what Brian was telling about is customers that were in a business transformation process or actually reviewing their business processes. So if quite some of the customers that migrated in Belgium actually were rethinking their finance, for example, either to basically get more real-time insight, like Brian was saying, and get a better control of the business. Also implementing tools like central finance, for example, is basically a way to get a real-time view on a disparate group and still have this group vision. So that's important. Also, obviously, wanting to implement the new digital ways to do processes. So thinking about machine learning, artificial intelligence. So that's one driver, basically business process engineering. Then obviously we also had customers who basically did this digital transformation, so changing the business model as such. So that's what we see happening in utilities, for example. But on the other side, there are also more tactical triggers. Customers which are in M&A discussion and decide, okay, let's start from scratch with a new system to basically accommodate for the new entity. Things like customers doing data center moves or moving to hyperscalers. That's also typically a good opportunity to look into an S4 migration.
Okay. I understand you also have been participating in some Q&A sessions with customers here today and also with user groups. What are the main questions of the customers?
I think there are basically three areas. I think the first area being, just like Brian and Alain mentioned, is that we have this date of end of 2025, where basically the maintenance of our current system will basically stop. So that's a concern of customers. So, okay, how do I take it into account? How do I plan for it? how do I make sure I'm ready on time? So that's one big concern. The second big concern is the business case. So we touched about that, is how to develop the business case, how to sell the project internally is a second topic which is popping up quite regularly. And then thirdly and lastly, it's about the resources, right? So with this deadline in mind, obviously the longer customers will wait, it will be more and more difficult to get the right resources at the right price. So there, indeed, we have, like Alain mentioned, these 1,000 jobs programs to help basically put some additional resources in the market and to basically help to create a solution for that shortage.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe just to add to that, I think one of the recurring themes that we heard as well is what I mentioned around the how to move, number one, but probably more importantly on the why to make this move. Because the challenge that customers have expressed is, to sell this IT transformation, again, how do we position this within our organization? I spend a lot of time in the Baltics, which is an emerging market for us, and honestly, many of them have an advantage because they don't have this legacy that they're moving from. What we really have worked hard at within SAP and along with the ecosystem is to allow customers to tell the story as to why this should happen. And I worked specifically, with one customer and sitting down with the CFO, we just said, okay, let's just look at your current systems and let's take order to cash. And we had worked with his team and we said, here's a video of your team going through an order to cash scenario in a legacy system, and here's what it's going to look like within S4. And just literally, without talking to either of the people, you just see the time that it takes. And the time in the legacy system is taking, let's just say, a while, whereas within S4, it's happening much quicker. When you get to do things like this, when you get to look at invoice matching, when you get to look at where you can save time, where you can save resources, and better allocate them in other directions, that's when we get to have a business transformation story. And the other thing that I think has really been great is to see how the ecosystem has embraced this so that we can empower our customers to then go back and tell the why story really effectively.
Okay.
Perhaps coming back on this order to cash process, I think it's a very good example because if you look at it basically from an ERP perspective only, you'll basically see some gains obviously on the process perspective in the ERP. But it's important to look at it from an end-to-end perspective, right? So lots of customers today are investing in new solutions, CRM solutions, web shops, basically commerce solutions, which means that you invest heavily to attract new customers. Attracting customers costs money, so you want to retain them, okay? So therefore you need also the core behind because you want to be able to deliver the right product at the right place, at the right price, and invoice it correctly. Because otherwise you will lose that customer, you spend a lot of money on acquiring. So that's why for the value of S4HANA, this digital core that will facilitate that, you really look at the end-to-end process to get that.
Okay.
And then maybe, just in general, Steph had said how many customers we currently have in Belgium. Globally, we now have close to 11,000 customers who are running on S4. We have 2,800 customers who are live on S4. We have over 6,000 deployments of S4 globally now. And we have 25 industries which have now been specified within S4 as well. So obviously the move that we've made has been very dramatic, and that's going to continue over time as well. But in addition, when you look at, we made a large acquisition, like I said, around Qualtrics, so that we can help bridge this gap that companies are experiencing, that difference, like I said, between the 80 and the 8, which is the experience gap that's existing in the economy today. The connection and the integration that needs to happen from back office to front office for any customer to remain competitive currently it's on everybody's mind. How are they going to deliver this great experience for their customers or this great product to their customers? And in order to do that, we need to empower our customers to have an agile platform in place. But what's really been great to see is, number one, how the ecosystem has embraced this and how within a very short time we've now gone to 11,000 customers, and I'm sure by the end of September we'll be adding a couple of more thousand customers to that list as well.
Okay, we've heard lots of reasons to make the move. Are there also objections when you talk with people, with companies?
Sure, I think, I touched on it. I think the objection, I'm sure the audience would probably nod, is that it's hard to position this and to sell this. In addition, there will be customers who will actually move large amounts potentially to different lines of business. So they may not be looking at keeping a particular line of business. They might move HR to the cloud. We're seeing that happen more and more over the future. But I think every company has, if we want to be in a growth mindset, has clearly looked at IT as being the differentiator for them. And given the momentum and the velocity that we're currently experiencing right now, I think most of our customers are going to be kicking off that move sooner rather than later. And the one thing, obviously, and Steph alluded to the date of 2025, what's key is that our customers get on this journey sooner rather than later, because one, obviously, the date is coming, and then secondly, there are only a certain amount of resources that we have in the market, and that's probably one of the biggest challenges, as Alan alluded to on stage today.
Okay, and Steph, how can SAP help customers make the business case?
That's a good question. And I think in the end, before we go there, I think it's important to come back to this end-to-end story. I think that if you look at, firstly, the processes that have been running in ERP systems for the last 20, 30 years, I think they've not fundamentally changed. So I think that if you just want to do a migration of the same process into a new system and then look at the business case, it's not always easy. Which means that if you want to do a business case, you need to look into, okay, what have we done in the last 20 years? But you also need to look at how will our process look like in the next 20 years? What if we add things like real-time insight, like predictive capabilities, data-driven technologies, machine learning, that's it. So you need to look at it from that perspective. So that's really important, and this end-to-end view. Now, concretely, I think that, first of all, Brian mentioned the ecosystem a few times. I think most of our partners today, either being resellers or system integrators, are developing tools to help customers with business cases. So that will be a good first point of entry to have a discussion. Also from our side, we have some self-service reporting that can help you to start getting a feeling. It's a business scenario recommendation report. And a transformation navigator, that's what we call them. Actually, it's kind of looking at your system and to understand what could be the potential value and start quantifying that as a kind of a first indicator on the business case. So that's really important. Obviously, we also have some value advisory services available at SAP to really help customers to go into a more in-depth business case. That's clear. But again, it's mainly looking also from a customer perspective, look forward, not backwards.
Okay, what are the different ways to get to S4? There are many ways to Rome, huh? Can you imagine?
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you, and that's also a big question we also get from customers, is that you either have a greenfield implementation where you say, okay, let's start from scratch, let's rethink what we do, and start building something from new. I think typically, if you look at also the customer surveys done by ASUS also in the first quarter of this year, typically that's an approach taken by companies which are in digital transformation, where they say, okay, it makes sense to revisit everything we do and to start from scratch. That's one way to do it. Second way to do this with the conversion, which means we take what you have, we lift it, and basically transform it and put it in place in the same system, which basically starts from your current processes. You get the new basis in there, and you can develop over time your system. But then, of course, you need to be sure that your processes are in a good shape and ready enough for the future there.
Okay, and how can SAP help?
Of course, I think that this decision needs to be taken by the customers together with their implementing partners and SAP, and we can look at the different scenarios. We have some checklists available. There's also a really good document written actually by the American user group and a German user group, which is the SAP Manifesto, which also provides a lot of checklists and guidance on how to help customers make up their mind in either to go for a conversion or basically greenfield implementation.
And maybe one other thing I would add is I think we're seeing more and more of our customers globally, not only in this part of the world, who are kicking off projects, but are very clear in the direction that those projects are taking in terms of going with a standard solution as opposed to going with a customized solution. That's something that we've seen the smaller companies go with and the larger companies go with. Just this morning I was speaking with a customer who will be going live with S4 Public Cloud, and that's going to be happening 6 months after they kicked off their project. That's something that obviously not many customers would have imagined as being possible, but that is possible when we stick with standard and we have the right steer co in place and the right governance. We at SAP, we've now established a customer-first organization globally so that we can ensure that customer success will be delivered, whereby even if we are the SI or we're not the SI, that we have a seat at the table to ensure that these projects are going to be successful. And we're happy to share more with anybody around that. And then in our part of the world as well, we have also established a customer first organization. A couple of customers got to benefit from that, even some of them over this past weekend, whereby we're supporting our customers in terms of the go-lives that they're going through, but also in terms of having a seat at the table to ensure that the project ultimately will be successful.
Okay, that's all very clear. Thank you both. Please stay with us, because in a moment some new customers will join us here at the table, customers who have already made the move to S4. And now, in the meanwhile, for a couple of minutes, we're going to listen to stereo bumper. Thank you, Stereo Bumper. In the meantime, a few people have joined us at the table. Welcome from Elia. We have Group SAP Manager, Joris Kuipers. And from SAP, we have the CIO, Didier Magna. Welcome. Mr. Kuipers, Mr. Magna, you already undertook the move to S4HANA with your organizations. What did you decide to do this move?
Okay, first of all, thanks for the invitation. So yes, a lot of customers talk about the move to S4HANA, but we actually did the journey. So why did we do it? HANA was not new for us, so our business suite was already on HANA. And since 2015, so we had to upgrade our system anyway, and we did not decide to do an enhancement pack upgrade because we thought there was more added value in the move directly to S4HANA, the latest version. So the why is a technical component, but also the added value, the business component, which is very important.
And for you, Mr. Magna?
So it's the same for us. It's a journey. We started in 2012 with a sidecar, so where we learn the technology of HANA. Next, we move our BW system to the HANA database, and then also core to HANA. So already doing this, it was a significant performance improvement, and cost saving on the hardware. So it was on infrastructure, 20% cost saving just moving to the database HANA. So after the question you have, so when are you going to S4? I always say it's not if you go to S4 or not go to S4, it's when you go to it, because you will have to go to S4. So and afterwards, it's really based on your situation, what are your plans, and so on. And we decided to make it step by step. So we move first on the what's it called, Simple Finance at the time. So it's a version 16.5. And on last year we move to 17.9. And we make it step by step. First of all, to reduce the risk of the big change. The longer you wait, the change will be bigger and bigger because they are SAP changing more and more from all your structure. So this was our decision to do it step by step, and we've already planned the next step. So when APO will be ready, we'll move to the next step. So it's again. It's not if you go to it, it's how you do it and when you do it. And our strategy is to reduce the risk. So we are completely dependent from all the ERP processes. We have fully automated, yeah. So it has to work, yeah. So it's more risk.
Perhaps a question, if I may. So both of you had built up experience on the HANA side. Do you think it's a critical success indicator to have a successful migration?
Yeah, it's make your life much easier because the interesting is when you move the simple finance, it was more data structure conversion. So it was not so much technical. It was more about your data, cleaning up your data. You know, all the inconsistencies that you have in the last 20 years, you have to clean them up before you can migrate. At the time, I would say the migration tool were also not completely mature. So we had a lot of contact with a SAP developer in Waldorf, yeah. When we moved to 79, this was more technical from programmatic, so because you have to adapt your program and so on. And here we took the advantage of running already on sidecar because we knew the technology, you knew things have to be changed and so on. Yeah. But on the process is much more mature. So I may say, now moving to S4, there is a very clear procedure path. You get a very good information about what is changing, what you have to do, and so on. I would say much easier as 3 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, you did it step by step. How did you undertake the move?
So yes, Business Suite on HANA was a very useful stepstone for us. But that was in 2015. So if you have to move now, I don't think it's really a good idea to still put your Business Suite on HANA. But in fact, what we did was we did some proof of concepts and we tried it all out. And we did a lot of pre-projects because it's a huge workload to do it all in the same project in the same weekend. So you have to choose your battle and fight different fights to really get to the end result of your S4 migration. So things like business partner conversions, upgrade of other satellite systems, you really need to do that up front in order to reduce your risk.
Right. What are the lessons you've learned during that process?
The lessons learned is certainly do those pre-projects. And my main lesson learned is to the people in the audience is start now. You can start now. There are things you can do. This doesn't mean that the project has to start, but cleaning your data, archiving, keeping your core clean, remove unused set, non-standard. These are things that you can already start without having the financing of your big S4 migration. So really take all the components and execute them one by one in the right order, and that helps a lot to have a smooth path to S4HANA.
Okay. Do you
agree? I agree with this.
You
yeah,
agree.
Exactly.
Okay.
Same procedure.
Ryan?
And I think maybe just to build on that, it's great to hear that you both say one in terms of you can start now by doing certain things in order to get the project started, and the offer that we make to all of our customers is we can work with you in terms of the recommendations, if it's cleansing data, et cetera, or something else along the journey, but also building out the roadmap with you in terms of when we think you will be ready for S4. Because we've also worked with some customers where we say we don't think you're ready yet, and we need to make a move to Suite on HANA first, potentially, given the complexity or something that's happening, and then when we think you will be ready for S4. But I think what it behooves all of us to do is to make sure that we are supporting you the right way, whereby we can build out the roadmap jointly with you. So the offer that we make to all of our customers is, if you're not getting that right now, please let us know and we'll make sure that we can help you, because as Didier said, it's not if you will move, it's just when that move will happen.
Okay, very clear. So you did it, Mr. Kuipers. What is next in your journey to the intelligent enterprise?
Okay, so now our digital core is up to date, let's say. So we did our first explorations with SAP Leonardo. So there is the real interesting part coming now. So we did 2 proof of concepts. So with image recognition, so finding materials in your database, not the classical way, but by taking a picture, for example. And also for the field workers, we are looking at speech to text. So then when they talk to the Fiori application, that the form that they normally have to key manually in the field, that the text is analyzed and that a lot of the data is pre-filled for them. So it really brings your ERP to the next level.
Okay, for you, Mr.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah. So it was the conversion is the basis work to get the benefit from all the new things coming in, all the intelligence in the enterprise, Fiori and so on. This is, this is your homework to be able to use these things. And it was my motivation when I had to present it to the board to get, that approved and so on, and say, if we want to take advantage from everything which is in the pipeline from SAP, you have to make this step. And the sooner, the better. This is what my message would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Presented to the board and also to your team, was it difficult to convince them?
It was not too difficult, yeah. But I would say it would be probably from company to company different, yeah. So we have, SAP is a very big part from our processes, so it's very well known from the board and so on. And I had no payback or business case, and it was really explaining the roadmap from SAP and how we want to take advantage from this roadmap and what SAP is doing. Yeah. It was not too difficult.
And for you, Mr. Kuipers, was it difficult to convince your team or rather? Yeah.
To convince the people, the timing has to be also okay. So we had a good momentum. There was a lot of transformations going on, let's say the analysis for a new HRIS system, for some changes in Ariba Cloud, etc. So the timing, that study was going on. So we said, why not first do our core? Otherwise, we have to test the integration 2 times, etc. So the timing was good. And for the rest, we felt pretty comfortable. We were in the customer care program of SAP, but even more important, we did it with the people in our core team that we already have. Everybody knew the history of his domain or her domain, so for finance, procurement, etc. So these people really felt comfortable after the proof of concepts, and we were able to bring that confidence also to the business analysts and the business to really go along with this story. So it was not a huge risk that we took since all the preparation that was done.
Mr. Mulder, I can imagine that you're happy with those success stories. Yes.
Absolutely. I think it is a good showcase of what we're trying to sell here and talk about today is the intelligent enterprise. It's basically, okay, we need to look at the new scenarios, build upon that, end-to-end new processes, but we need a digital core to be basically backing that up. So that's why it's important to start thinking about the move, start preparing the move, start looking at the way to do it, start looking about the new processes going forward, and basically take advantage of the momentum.
Okay.
And maybe I would add, obviously we at SAP were the first mover to implement S4, and we did so standard. And now I am obviously one of the business users for S4 for the business that I run. And when I look at how I engage with the systems that we have today and the data that I can pull out of the systems myself, whether it be on my phone or my iPad or on a laptop, I can, one, do that all myself. I don't need to go to a COO. I don't need to ask for somebody to run a report. But in addition, what it allows me to do is to get a feeling for what's going on within the business. And when you have that data, it's not actually about looking in the rearview mirror anymore, getting a readout. Now it's about looking at the data and deciding what is it that I'm actually going to do to change the future. And that's something that I can do now by myself in looking into it with no CFO, no offense to the CFOs or to the COOs, but I can do all of this by myself, whereas before you would have been heavily reliant on an organization to produce all of that material for you. And being very open, the best champions that we have within SAP and the champions that we have at our customers now are the CFOs, because S4 has truly changed the way the finance community engages with SAP in a big way. And I hope that we're going to have lots more customers like both of you, and I wanted to thank you for being on stage with us. And I hope that we'll be able to move many of our customers to S4 this year also.
That were the perfect ending words. Thank you very much for this conversation. And I will give, thank you to my guests, maybe a little applause for them, ladies and gentlemen. I will give the floor to Timo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Timo Williott. I'm an innovation evangelist, and I have the tough job of trying to quickly summarize the key points of your discussion. So we started off with Brian. It's all about the experience gap. It turns out that only 8% of our customers think that we're delivering a superior service, and 80% of CEOs are completely deluded. Is basically the problem. We have an opportunity to increase the power of our products and services, and we'd like to help. With the move to SAP, we want to make sure that the entire ecosystem is trained, certified, and ready to go, with information on how to move and why to move. So the business transformation story. Brian touched on why S4HANA, what are the advantages of the platform. So we believe that you get competitive advantage through using the very latest technologies to provide a real-time business, but above all, a platform for innovation. We all know that the IT function is absolutely key for business differentiation in the future. So it's all about driving forward into the future rather than looking out of the rear view mirror. Steph, we talked about broad adoption here in Belgium across lots of different sectors and sizes of organizations. And I was delighted to hear that the Belgian public sector is a surprisingly fast adopter. So if you haven't moved to S4HANA yet, you remember, you are behind the government in the adoption of IT technology. That's got to give you room for pause for thought. What are some of the concerns people have about choosing the right time, making sure that you're doing it right with the right resources? But above all, we came back to the same thing time and time again, which is the business case. How do you get momentum in your organization to move to S4HANA? So we're obviously trying to help by giving you clear before and after business cases or examples of business processes like order to cash. It's about taking the big picture, the right product, to the right place, providing the right invoice. Business partners can help. They have tools to help you make the right choices. We provide the transformation navigator for the technical steps that make sense for you, and the value advisor service where we can really go in from a business point of view at how to help. You can go either greenfield or conversion. There's even a manifesto to help you make up your mind, provided by the Americans. It's faster than you may think. So we've had a number of successes delivering these upgrades faster than people are used to in the past. And we heard from our wonderful customers here. The choice of when to move was a complex decision based on a number of factors, some technical, some business benefits and cost savings. So above all, though, it's not about if, it's about when. So you are going to move to this new platform. It's a question of doing it and de-risking it. Where we can go from step by step. The good news is that these gentlemen have done the first customer journeys for you. We've learned a lot in the process, so some of the steps that they took that you can now skip. You can go directly to S4HANA rather than Business Suite on HANA, for example. And what is the big benefit? Well, all of this, as we heard, is kind of the homework. Once you can put down this strong foundation for your business, you get to do the cool stuff. So you get to do image recognition and speech to text and wow your board and the rest of the company with all of the amazing things you can do with the technology. Finally, it's all about drinking our own champagne. We are an aggressive early adopter of these systems ourselves. And you heard from Brian, he's a user himself. Believe it or not, he's sold on the benefits of the system. Isn't that amazing? And now does everything himself. Proud of you. And since he's so used to using the system, it also means now that if you have any technical questions or support calls, please feel free to call Brian. He'll tell you how to fix that. All right, and that was my quick summary.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Timo, for that refreshing overviewing. So now, ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you when you have questions. Timo, maybe you can sit here. I'll go into the audience.
I'll just lurk.
Oh, just walk.
But now we're going to throw it over, right? So we've done our talking at you, but it's the whole goal of this is to optimize the experience of this event. And this is your opportunity to ask your questions for these wonderful experts on stage. So we have a roving microphone. So please, if you have a question, please raise your hand and somebody will rush over and you can ask any question you like. This is the audience interaction part, unless you're wondering. So who's going to be the first brave person? Okay, we have a couple of hands here. Gentleman there, and so we'll start with you, gentleman there. Thank you. And if you have a preference for who you'd like to answer your question, please.
For both of the customer testimonials, I was wondering if they did a greenfield or a conversion when they moved to S4.
Okay, question was, is it a greenfield or conversion?
Greenfield or conversion, that's the question.
Yes.
Shakespeare would say. We did a conversion because there is a checklist from SAP to decide when to go for a greenfield, when to do a conversion. Don't call it brownfield, I hate that word. Because your system is running well, if your core is clean and you're confident about the non-standard you have and you still need it, there are a lot of parameters that go in the direction of conversion. So it was really a conversion that we did and not a greenfield.
So it's the same for us. We look on all the options that we had, but very quickly we find out also conversion is the easiest one.
So conversion in this case, but of course we've had lots of very successful greenfield implementations. Even if you're a large company, I was talking to PwC about their project with Shell, and they've spun up a number of very successful S4HANA implementations in countries like Venezuela, where they wanted to put in a specific system very quickly, and it's been very successful. Brian, Steph?
I would just say that obviously we've seen a huge mix in terms of customers who have gone both greenfield or a conversion. We can, as you heard from the customers and from Steph, we can help you in terms of making that decision. And from our perspective, it's all about doing that which is right for you. And that's the commitment that we make to you, that we will ensure that we put you on the right path, whether it's going to be a conversion or a greenfield approach.
So again, the good news is lots of people have gone before you. So we have lots of experience to help you make exactly the right steps to succeed from our point of view and the greater ecosystem of partners and other customers and the user groups. Next question, there was a hand over here. Thank you.
Can we have an idea of how long times need to make the migration from SSC to SAP for HANA?
Okay, how long is a piece of string?
So the first conversion was Simple Finance. It took us 6 months. And the next one was the 17.9 version, take us something like 10, 12 months.
So it depends if you calculate pre-projects also in the time of the project. So I would say 1 year pre-project. Then we did a parallel landscape for 5 months and we went live. But when you're live, it's not really finished because if you do the Fiori tsunami, you're not able to do it all at once. So you keep continuing a little bit with the project to bring a more and more Fiori live. So in total, I would say 2 years, but the really core of the project with the double maintenance and the parallel landscape was about 5 months.
Maybe I would just add that hopefully the implementation timelines that you're going to hear, and I know the implementation timelines you will hear, will be better than that which you expect. I don't think when we think of 4 to 5 years ago to hear that we could do something in between 6 months to 2 years, most customers wouldn't think that that's realistic. But the good news is that these are the timelines that we are delivering the benefits on. I shared with you a customer who literally is going from decision to go live within 6 months. Over the next week, they will be going live. And the good news is that we can make timelines like that happen. And the other great news is that SAP, in conjunction with our partners, now work hand in hand together to ensure that we can be delivering on all of these timelines. And I'm sure that you'll all be educated as to what this could mean for your business as well and how quickly we can get you there.
Yeah. If you look at basically the last surveys for the American user group, you see indeed that we're talking about an average between 7 to 12 months project time. And I think indeed what Brian's saying is that both our partners, the ecosystem and ourselves are working on accelerators to basically help you to decrease the time frame. That's clear.
And maybe one other thing I would add is, when you think about this from a business perspective, no CEO is going to sign up for a project that's going to take 5 years, right? They're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it because they want to benefit from this big, potentially, implementation that they're going to make. Therefore, the benefits have to be delivered while that CEO is still here. And that has put pressure on us, which has put pressure on the SIs. So the good news is that the entire ecosystem has now moved around the fact that we need to make these projects happen quicker. Because just like you heard, once we do this, we got the platform, and then we do all the cool stuff on top of it.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Maybe here?
There's a question over there.
Sorry.
If you could keep your hand up while the microphone finds you, thank you.
Thank you. You speak about conversion. I would like to know, what about interfaces and all the integration with other legacy systems that are not necessarily SAP based when you do the conversion to S/4HANA?
There's a question.
Anybody in particular you'd like to answer, or?
Anyone?
Well, let's talk about reality. So as you worked on your projects, what other systems did you have to integrate with?
So, yeah, we have, our ECC is connected with 44 non-SAP systems. So that's quite a bunch of non-SAP systems. It could be order entry system, it could be some HR systems that are connected. So, but these integration is all done with SAP PI, so the process integration. And in fact, we only had few impacts on that part because a lot of the web services and what we call the contract of the web services stayed the same. So there were only 2 of those 44 web services or integrations that we need to fix. So that was kind of a very positive situation. So the core changed a lot, but if you have your middleware, it will hide a lot of that change that was done in your backend. And also SAP, when they throw away transparent tables, for example, during the remodeling, they always provide HANA compatibility views in order to make this as non-disruptive as possible. So the interfaces were really not the hardest part of the project.
Yeah, I can confirm we have also 100 of connection to customers, suppliers, internal. They have not been a big deal. The deal was more when we moved first to the HANA database because we had to move to Unicode. Yeah, and this way you have to be careful on interface. You have to test it a little more, but afterwards it was no deal, I would say.
Maybe I would just add that SAP, obviously, you've heard a lot today around the intelligent enterprise, and last year at Sapphire was the first time that we delivered our vision to deliver the intelligent enterprise, and a huge piece of that is integration, and that means integration between SAP to SAP, but also SAP to non-SAP, and in addition, the good news is the integration that you require to have will be something which SAP will deliver, and we will be delivering that for all of our customers, but especially for our customers who are moving to S4, it's going to be dramatically easier than the customers who are potentially running other legacy versions of SAP.
Great point.
There's kind of things that you have to maybe feel these more characters, or these are small changes where you have to adapt also on the other side, but it's not very large.
Okay, thank you. Next question. You found one?
There, I see somebody.
Okay, thank you.
So while you are running this 6 to 12 months project, you still have your support activities going on of the current systems. We also have in our company like 3 monthly releases where we send new legal changes, new business requirements to production. Is there any risk of this coming to this project? Do you have to handle that in a specific way, or how do you organize that during this migration period?
So were you able to hear that? A question generally about de-risking your project
Yes.
and the support.
So, yeah, when you do this kind of projects, selling a freeze is very hard to business. So we did the parallel landscape, and in fact, we did it parallel for 5 months. So it was really like at the end of those 5 months, like 800 transports, so 800 stuff that had to be put into production. Part of it was go-lives that we had on the current landscape. Part of it was changes for S4. So we really had to do that fusion, and we really managed to not have a freeze and do the S4 migration at the same time. I must admit that those 800 transports, we tested them 3 times on a sandbox before we went live. So when we went live in that weekend, all transports were green because we did 3 rehearsals of it. So it does not make your life easier, continuing business as usual, but it's necessary. But it is possible if you have some special attention to this topic.
So basically lots of good preparation. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So we had the same experience. So we did not make a freeze. And it was a little bit more harder for us because in the meantime we're in acquisition. So we had to integrate 2 additional mills in parallel. So it was a little bit of sport. And we had also, I think we were 7 months in parallel. Yeah? When we move all together, it's also more than 1,000 of transport to adapt and so on. But it's, if you have a good team, you have a discipline, it's manageable. But it's impossible to freeze something for a long time. Also, when when we have transformed our development, we open the quality system. We're still making changing quality system, and when we upgrade the quality system, we still make changing in production system. So you have to manage it. So we don't stop. We are transporting every day. So
you were basically flying 2 planes while you're changing the engines, and you have passengers loading, and you still manage to land everything. Was that an answer to your question, sir? That's good. Okay, great. Thank you. They're doing this deliberately. They're taking in turns to make you run the furthest possible. So the next question has to come over from here.
I'm sorry for that. I have a question about the add-ons. How do you handle these when you do the move to S/4HANA? How can you prepare to have no problems with that?
I'm afraid I didn't catch that.
Add-ons?
Add-on. Was it add-ons?
Add-ons, yeah.
Add-ons, okay.
So add-on could be a headache, because we have some add-ons. So SAP says they are ready and so on, but you have a company where they say they're ready, but they are not ready. We had, for example, I think add-on from Ritsoft, and the guy from Ritsoft, they've never seen a S4 system. So we are the first one where they see it, and they had to adapt their add-on for us last minute thing. So we had a little bit headaches with 2 add-ons. Yeah.
Add-ons are indeed really a challenge. So a lot of those vendors, third-party vendors of the add-ons, are lacking behind in their certification. So that's really a pain. But during the project, it used to be really a showstopper during the conversion. So you really got to stop in your upgrade. Yeah. But there were some workarounds for some old add-ons to really bypass that. So there was a note published for that. that we did in collaboration with SAP. So in the future, it will be less difficult, but it's really an attention point. Make your homework for the add-ons.
So we ate add-ons.
And presumably, if you had to do the same project again now, it would at least be a little easier. This is why we have the MOVE program, making sure that the rest of the ecosystem is enabled. Brian.
And maybe, just on the earlier question, I'd say obviously, we're here to support every customer to make sure that you're going to be successful. So we'll work with you to make sure, and the SI to make sure that we have the right deployment plan, the right, let's say, wrapper around everything to ensure success. If you're going to be flying 2 planes or doing lots of homework beforehand. And in addition, when it comes to the add-ons, the one thing that we'll make sure is nobody's going to be flying blind when it comes to this. And we'll know well in advance where we're going, which I know in both scenarios here, we did a very good job at this.
And that's also where the customer care program comes in, is to follow you on that and try to find solutions.
We were ready to adapt that on ourselves if they have not done it, so we were just waiting.
Okay, so we have one last quick question we have time for, I think. Any takers? Oh, now you all ask questions. Gentleman at the front, maybe? Apologies if you had your hand up earlier. It's hard to see with this.
I wanted to ask a question about, in your experience, what has been the good change management approach while rolling out these projects?
So let me translate it. It's like, what's the one big thing you'd like to tell people so they could do this best?
Yeah.
So it's a big challenge, or what?
Sorry,
No. So what? This audience is going to be moving to S4HANA.
Yeah.
You've learned a lot about it. What's the one thing that you'd like to leave them with as they go away today? Like the one thing that will help them be successful, that only you can tell them.
I tell you, don't wait, as soon as possible.
Oh,
the longer you wait, the more difficult it will be.
Great answer, don't wait.
For me, that would be take it easy on the change management. So the Fiori tsunami, it's also difficult to support. So in the beginning, we had very large ambitions to make it full Fiori, but then we start to focus on the main applications, the main Fiori apps, and then you have more time to support your business to make this change than to do it all at once in a big bang.
And Brian, Steph, any big things you recommend that you've seen work?
No, I think it's do it now. I think the customers are out there. There's 2 customers at the table. We have more than 3,000 customers live, which means the solution is there. We've learned also a lot together with these first movers. I think take care about the resources. Obviously, the longer you wait, it will be harder to get the resources at the right price. So take the opportunity now, prepare yourself to get the innovation on your process, because obviously the market will not wait, your competitors will not wait for you to become an intelligent enterprise. So do it now, and for the business case, don't think about the past, look at the future.
Brian, last words.
And I would say, obviously we have a lot of customers now who have made the move, so you can't really say that they were the first movers already. I think that the pace of innovation has never been as fast as it is now, but at the same time, it's never going to be as slow as it is today. Therefore, the need to move is now, and it's all about looking forward and stop looking in the rearview mirror as we move forward here. And once we do this and we have the system in place, then we get to, like Timo said, the cool things when we can put this innovation layer on top and start to make really great innovation headlines together.
All right, fantastic. So we heard that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The sooner you do it, the easier it will be. We would love you to join the 11,000 customers that have already moved to S4HANA. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in applauding this wonderful panel.